Some senseless idiots still think that British built Indian railways for India's good and well-being. But the obvious truth was Indian railways were built on India's wealth by Indian statehoods. British just ensured to connect the entire subcontinent because a well-connected country is well looted. So welcome to Aryan Explores. In this video, we are gonna explore on how Indian Railways was there just after independence during all those years and how it is changing during post-modern era.
On the eve of India's independence, on the midnight of the
After independence on August 15, 1947, on paper India had massive rail network because more connection is equal to more loot. However, this came with severe limitations. This was further devastated by partition. The undivided British India, or we can say Vande Bharat, had total route length of 65,217 km with 42 different railway systems and multiple gauges. Like roughly 50% of them was broad gauge, 40% of them were meter gauge, 10% were narrow gauge, and only 388 kilometers were electrified. And due to World War II, approximately 40% of our locomotives, which had very good quality of iron and steel, that were exported to Middle East to support the British war efforts, and the network was left with war-worn engines, neglected tracks, and minimal maintenance. And then partition happened. Roughly 10.5 thousand kilometers of railway lines were lost to beggars on both sides. Despite acute shortages of everything, Indian Railways somehow managed to transport 4.7 million passengers during the partition. And due to this, most of the rakes got into even more worse conditions. So just after independence, there were only 129 broad gauge locomotives, 358 meter gauge locomotives, only 14,000 broad gauge coaches and 7.8 thousand meter gauge coaches, and these many goods wagons. Roughly 927 stations were abandoned for goods traffic and 515 stations were abandoned for passenger traffic. And then we had roughly around 620 million passengers annually, and we used to transport roughly 90 million tons of goods. So now we got to know how Indian Railways was left after World War and partition. Coming to the growth phase. So by 2014, Indian Railways had become fourth largest railway network in the world. So in 1947, when Indian Railways had 41.8 thousand kilometers of broad gauge and 29,000 kilometers of meter gauge and 6.4 thousand kilometers of narrow gauge, and in that roughly 5,700 kilometers was double tracked. And by 2014, the total route length became 65,800 kilometers, where broad gauge was 58,000 kilometers and meter gauge was 5,300 kilometers and narrow gauge was just 2.3 thousand kilometers, and the total electrified route was 21.6 thousand kilometers. Like roughly 33% of total network was electrified, and we had around 20,000 kilometers of multiple lines like double lines or multiple tracks. So coming to rolling stock, we had around 14.8 thousand locomotives. 68% of them were still diesel locomotives. This represented a major economic and environment burden. Coming to coaches and wagons, you can see approx 70,000 units of passengers and 254,000 wagons of freight. The capacity had grown exponentially but not matched the demand growth. Coming to operational performances, we had around 8.4 billion passengers annually, and we used to transport 1.1 million tons of freight every year, and this making average of 23 million passengers and 2.9 freight million tons every single day. Due to freight business profit, we used to earn 44.5 thousand crore, and due to passenger business, we used to have a loss of 33,000 crore. So, due to cross subsidy, for every 1 rupee earned by passenger business, Indian Railways used to spend around 1.67. This unsustainable model was constraining investment in infrastructure and modernization. And coming to the infrastructure deficit, it was very slow expansion, like from 1947 to 2014. In 16 years, only 10,000 new route kilometers were added. Meanwhile, the road freight has captured market share of Indian Railways, reducing to just 30% of freight movement. Coming to electrification, lag despite starting electrification back in 1925 till 2014, only 21.8 thousand kilometer was electrified till 2014. This was mainly on Grand Trunk Road that connected main cities, and dependent on diesel made operations expensive and polluting. Coming to safety and maintenance, track congestions leading to slower speeds, aging infrastructure contributing to accidents, limited dedicated freight corridors or very less priority for freight corridors, and outdated signaling and safety systems. So, also railways have changed tracks multiple times due to maintenance and commissioning and completing important and impossible routes that passes through ghats like Mangalore to Hassan section and Konkan railways, yes, from Mangalore to Roha, and converting the whole railways to broad gauge system. Actually, this was low-key influenced by Russia because Russia also has broad gauge, which is slightly smaller than Indian gauge. And also, yes, Calcutta metro construction, Delhi metro construction, and launching very premier trains like Rajdhani Express, Shatabdi Express, Duranto Express, and many more. Yes, this was very crazy during that time, and also introducing LHB coaches. By 2014, it was clear that Indian Railways needed a fundamental transformation. The Great Advancement. The period from 2014 to current time, that is 2025, let's call it this era as Modern Era Ultra Pro Max. This time period is the most transformative decade in Indian Railways. Coming to network expansion and modernization, in 2025 our network has total route length is around 69,181 kilometer. That means we are at around 4,000 kilometers of route length during last decade, and in that 68.8 thousand was broad gauge and remaining is 361 kilometer of narrow gauge, which is primarily a heritage site like Kalka Shimla, Siliguri, Darjeeling, and Ooty and Coimbatore. And 99% of electrification is done. Coming to double or multiple tracks, we have around 31,000 kilometers of double tracks. Coming to economic and environmental impact, total investment during last decade was $5.5 billion, and annually we save around 14.5 thousand crores due to electrification, and we have 4,500 megawatts solar capacity installed across stations, and we target for net zero carbon emissions by 2030. Coming to rolling stock and technologies, now we have around 13,000 electric locomotives like VAP5, VAP7, VAP1, VAP4 and all, and we are gradually decreasing the shift from diesel dominated to electrical. And coming to coaches and wagons, we have around 85,000 passenger units and 328,000 and freight units, and annually production capacity is around 30,000 wagons of passengers and 1.5 thousand locomotives. Recently, we have observed that ICF blue is not visible in these days because those rakes were colored to Utrecht color scheme because all coaches went to modification and maintenance, and now every toilet has bio toilets. And so while speaking on rolling stock, Vande Bharat Express is a must talk because this is a train set that is designed to go max of 200 kilometers, but due to track support it can go till 180 kilometers per hour. Normally in operations it is normally operated around 120 to 130. Reaching this amounts of speed that in broad gauge within 100 crores for 16 rakes per train set with all modern facilities. And as of now, around 164 trains are operational across India and 105 occupancy rates. And hey, if you wanna know more on Vande Bharat, just comment down. I'll make a new video. Or if you are seeing this video so late, I may also have uploaded video. You can just check out. And in similar type, we have non-AC Vande Bharat Express. This is a complete unreserved express. Nearly 30 services has been launched, and then Namo Bharat, that is Delhi regional train, which is a metro train that acts as a suburban railway. Then coming to operational performance, we have over 7 billion annual passengers and we carry around 1.5 billion tons. And coming to major infrastructure projects from related to rail, that is high speed rail network. The first bullet train in India, that is from Mumbai to Ahmedabad. The work is in progress. If you want to know the reality of Mumbai Ahmedabad railway, you can just click here. Okay, there is a target of 7,000 kilometers of dedicated passenger corridors by 2047. And coming to safeties, by safety, Kavach 4 is installed and Kavach 5 is under development. Accidents reduced by 80% unless people keep rods just to derail new Vande Bharat Expresses and throw stones on them. Also, we have dedicated freight corridors like Eastern DFC and Western DFC, which is in construction. Only few parts have been open to service. That will carry around 70% of freight traffic in India. Now let's know the future vision for Indian Railways Viksit Bharat 2047. Launch of 1000 new trains because most of the trains are very old, like it is running from the independence. Complete electrification and renewable energy transition. Electrification is almost complete and transition is still more required, and expansion to 120,000 kilometer of route length. This is crazy because now we have around 69,000 kilometers. This is roughly doubling the entire Indian railways. And then India would account to 40,000 of global rail activity by 2050 and around 5,000 kilometer of metro rail network in 100 cities of India. So coming to conclusion, so throughout the video we saw how Indian Railways always pushed itself to serve and make transportation in India better and best by giving comfort rates in Vande Bharat, Rajdhani, Shatabdi, and how infrastructure change happened throughout the history and how it will go in the future. We know how Project Unicage from converting all tracks into broad gauge and 100% electrification, modern Vande Bharat and dedicated freight corridors, new routes construction, and many more. If you want to know more on National Rail Plan, Indian Railways is aiming for and completability, then comment down, I'll make a video on that too. Thanks for watching this video. We will meet you in the next one.